Hey guys, welcome back. Robocraft Early Access coverage. This is episode 16. I'm Enigmius, and today we're putting the finishing touches on our flying rail walker, our tier 8 flying rail walker, and then we're going to take it into a match and see how it does. Warts and all. This is kind of the stage where we've put all of the major components onto the vehicle, and now we're looking at using up the rest of the CPU to fill it out a little bit. There's all kinds of different things you can do with spare CPU, from adding radar stuff to adding electroplates to adding more blocks. In this case, I did actually end up adding a bunch of radar stuff, and then found that because the vehicle was so mobile and was benefiting from being in like high perches and stuff like that, that the radar gear was a lot of CPU for very little benefit. And of course, with my vehicles that tend to be on the larger side, electroplates are better for small vehicles because you're saving all that CPU by not using as many blocks to build the vehicle, so then you throw on the electroplates to give it that extra protection. Whereas in this case, we've got a lot of CPU tied up in blocks, and the blocks have armor value that preclude the necessity of electroplates if we want to be survivable in the matches for the tier that we're in. So we've got these wings in place, and we've got all kinds of other important things. I decided I would try a little bit added on to the whole armor coil idea, making sure that it's attached in two ends instead of, kind of coiled into the middle, and it's layered, as you can sort of see here. It doesn't matter that it's on two layers or anything like that. It's just I was messing around, and that's what I came up with. And we'll see how it goes. The biggest thing that I do, and I've been trying to illustrate this with the last several videos, is we do all of the connections first, and they look stringy and they look vulnerable, like the perches where the rear railguns and the thrusters and the rudders are. But we fill them out and we build around them so that they have more armor value than just these single pedestals to hold everything together. Now, we've added, obviously, the rudders since the last episode. We've got a single vertical rudder in the back and two horizontal rudders, so that gives us a lot better control and maneuverability. This is a very heavy vehicle, and it's not going to be very fast, but we need to make sure that wherever we're going, we are able to adjust our heading fairly quickly. Otherwise, we're just a target. We're just a really big, slow, blimpy target, and that's no fun for anybody except for the people shooting us down. So anytime I can extend a row of blocks and use them to shield a component from something, if I've got the CPU, why not do it, right? There's no point going into a match with all this extra CPU that we haven't used. Some people like to throw on extra guns. I've already got four rail guns, and I don't know if the garage can sustain a vehicle large enough to hold 6 tier 9 rail guns. I'm not sure, and I don't plan on finding out anytime soon. So we've got 4 rail guns. We've got a total of 6 thrusters. We've got 4 legs. We've got 2 wings and 3 rudders, and that comprises the bulk of the vehicle, and then everything else is just tying it together and trying to keep it together for as long as we possibly can. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, especially with flying vehicles, and this is flying vehicles and hover vehicles probably more than any other, is when we go into the practice map, we're not just testing to make sure that the vehicle doesn't flop over as soon as we take a corner. That's a good thing to test for any vehicle, but we also want to get to know the handling characteristics of the vehicle that we've built, because the position of the various different things on the vehicle will have a dramatic impact, or at least can have a dramatic impact on how the vehicle handles. So you can move, rudders from the front to the back to the front, out farther to the sides and closer to the middle, and it will change the way the vehicle performs. And what we don't want to do is have to go into these first few matches completely blind, learning that the vehicle doesn't turn that way. We thought it was going to turn a certain way, but it doesn't. And we could have learned that in the practice map if we had just been a little bit patient. But we didn't, and now we're going to pay for it. Trust me, there's still plenty of embarrassing events that can take place after you've practiced, but at least the initial edge is off. One of the things that I found is that whatever you practice in the practice map that seems like you recovered from it pretty well, in an actual match, it kills you almost every single time, because in the practice map, you don't have at-tier vehicles shooting at you while these horrible things are happening to the vehicle that just crashed or spun out or flipped over or whatever. So that's a good reason to just go in and invest a little bit of time. We actually spent a total of 10 minutes once we got all of these extra blocks on, just messing around and seeing what was going on. I trimmed that down a little bit because that's kind of a long time to be goofing around in the practice map, but still be able to show you kind of the basics of what we were aiming for and what the vehicle is prone to do. Now, this is one of the best parts, is we can go from walking to jump and hit forward, and immediately we're airborne. That, I mean, the rapid takeoff thing, basically anywhere we want, is really, really cool. We're moving much, much faster, you'll see, than your standard walker vehicle because we're flying. That's another huge benefit to this vehicle, especially a rail vehicle, to be able to put ourselves at the beginning of a match where nobody ever expects us to be because it's so far from where we started. I mean, that's really, really helpful. And to be able to relocate where we're needed quickly, as opposed to the standard rail sort of difficulty of we're in one spot and it's a good spot, that's why we're there, and then we have to relocate because we've got no targets or we're needed somewhere else, and by the time we get there we've either been jumped and destroyed or the match is over. It's not a good thing. So we're messing around here, seeing how we can do in the relocation category. Of course, we're going to spend a little time getting a feel for the bot and how the guns line up, finding where the red dot appears and realizing that, you know, after we had those sloped designs, this is takes a little bit of getting used to. You have to kind of dangle over the edge a little bit more, but still very effective, at least against the practice bots. So early testing, getting a handle for the way things go, a lot of benefits to this particular design. Again, we're looking at the different modes of transportation and their advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage with rails is that if the vehicle moves at all while you're trying to line up a shot, it interferes with your aim, and you can't afford to be missing shots because your aim went wonky. So being able to have the stability of the legs and the mobility of the wings, definitely worth refining this, even if it doesn't work necessarily as much as we would like it to in the early going. One of the weaknesses of this vehicle that you'll see in this video is that it really wants to land, basically tip onto its nose when it lands and then flip over onto its back. You'll see very, very soon here, we do a little loop, or do a little bit of a roll, just because this is a test to see how we can land on vertical surfaces. This is what I'm approaching, as I just fly across, find a vertical surface, and see if we can stick to it. A little bit of a cheeky shot there, and immediately you could see the one leg, the front left leg, wanted so badly to grab onto that wall, but it didn't do a very good job. I solved that to some extent by putting a couple of low-tier thrusters on the front end. So when we're coming up to a platform or a wall where we want to land, we can use that to some extent to adjust our tilt and have a better chance of sticking the way we want to. But the difficulty, again, is not so much not being able to stick to walls because we don't have the thrusters, but looking like we're coming in with a good approach to land flat, and all of a sudden the vehicle is just tilted forward and on its back. And you have to do the little takeoff, and then what would normally make you lower the vehicle is now going to make you raise the vehicle up into the air, and that works. And you think in the practice map, that wasn't so bad, but you do it in an actual match, and by the time you're halfway flipped over, the enemy has destroyed your bot. It's horrible. So this is another example here of kind of coming in and trying to land on these platforms is what I was hoping, is what I was thinking, by letting off the throttle and seeing how the vehicle sort of behaves, and then saying, to hell with it. I'm landed on this son of a bitch no matter what anybody says. And I got used to being in this position. So you can see, we actually do a nice little split S kind of thing, and we're back upright and we're flying normally, but in a match, it's so frustrating when everything else is just coming up like awesome, coming up roses, so to speak, and then you do something stupid like that, and every enemy eye looks at you and says, yeah, this guy's an easy kill. So enough messing around, well, almost enough messing around on the practice map. Like I say, we're going to trim it down a little bit. You can see when we're dangling off the edge, we're in pretty good shape to fire on pretty much anything. And if we decide that we can't fire, or we don't want to fire, or we're better off just relocating, we can do that too. We can jump off walls, we can take flight from pretty much anywhere, as long as we start off on our legs. Foreshadowing all day long with the foreshadowing. Relocating, crossing the map, very fast, very big, very slow, very easy target, many blocks, offering protection, and there we go. So that was a nice landing. Now, it could have been a lot worse. Now, one of the things that I noticed as we were flying around is that we've got very, very little protection on the front of the vehicle. Right now, it's just a little kind of a hook nose out of the tier 8 blocks. We can do better. We need to do better. So that's what we'll do. We'll head, before we go into our first match, we'll just go and we'll add a few extra blocks to the front end. And again, to illustrate how easy it is to add here, there's nothing that we need to change about the existing structure. We can just add to it. That's all we need to do. And then we're providing a little bit of extra protection for the front legs, and also that whole section of the vehicle moving back towards the pilot seat. We want to give it a little bit of protection from frontal assaults, because as much as we're going to get it from underneath and from the sides and from above, we're still going to be getting it from the front, because we're peeking over and trying to line up shots at people who are tired of being shot by railgunners. And it's just extra blocks. It's extra blocks, and each extra block is more armor, which may or may not last, but at least we can say we tried. So this would be not our first match, but one of our first matches. And again, quick takeoff, flying off in the direction where we don't expect anyone is ever going to find us, until we've killed them, that is, and getting there as quickly as we possibly can. One of the things that I really love, for no particular reason, it's not really all that much of a tactical advantage, but arriving at a spot and already having killed an enemy vehicle before anyone on my team is anywhere near me, and being safe in the process. So that's kind of cool. So you can see we're way out in the middle of nowhere right now. We're exactly where a railgun should be. No one thinks to look over here to shoot at us. We've got flyers that if you can't one-shot a flyer, the least you could do is shoot them once and watch them fall out of the sky. That, to me, is almost more rewarding than getting them out of the match entirely. So this early in the match, we've got one guy is crippled in the ravine, and the other guy is destroyed. The enemy will see us soon enough, but not because our position was bad, because we did something stupid. Now, at this point here, I'm basically trying to assess what's going on. Like, where are my teammates? What are they trying to do? We've got this group of guys advancing along the outer edge of the map, so to speak here, not counting the ravine. As I was saying about the landings and the compromised position, somewhere down here is the guy that I crippled and shot down. And all I really want to do is get right side up and resume what I was doing. So we got lucky. We used the wall to assist us. We had the thrusters going, and then right away again. Almost another catastrophe. And the enemy is starting to cap. So we went from being on top of the world with a couple of really good moves against the enemy in the early going to a real klutz in a ditch. Someone has seen me. I'm not too worried. We can spot some guys on the way by. If we win, it's worth an extra, couple of tech points and some RP. But then again, we're like, okay, land and the idea was to land and then crawl up the wall and over, and hopefully get some shots on the enemy who is capturing our base. They're trying to capture our base. It took so long, he got tired of waiting for us and decided to come this way. We did get a shot off on him. It was a lucky shot, another cheeky one, and then our teammate came along and saved us. We're left with 2 guns, some thrusters and a wing, 1 rudder in the back, and this is basically the match for us. So we're done. So the next episode, we're actually going to take a detailed look at a lot of the changes that I've made to this vehicle that have really helped to address the landing issue, but also made it really, really fun to play in matches. I think you're going to like what you see. So if you want to be notified when I add that video, easiest way to do that, subscribe to my channel and or follow me on the social media. Links for social media are in the information section below the video. Please leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.